Hey everyone, so this is the water bottle that we're going to be working on today. Some of the stuff I've condensed down really short, some of it not so much. I hope y'all enjoy this and let's get started. So we got this water bottle from Walmart, and it's a 64-ounce water bottle. And I did not sand this because it's got so much texture on it. So all I did was I went in with my white and my green acrylic paint. And I went just about 3/4 of the way up the bottle with it. And then we're going to use our Aleene's tack it over and over. And we are going to put a good coat of this Aleene's all over this tumbler. It doesn't matter how you put this on because it's going to go on white, but it'll dry clear. So we're just going to go all the way around our tumbler, or in this case, our water bottle. And we just want to make sure we get a good coat all the way around this bottle. And once we get our uh, our tack it on, we're going to go in with our first glitter, which is Avatar by PDB Creative Studios. And we're just going to lay that around the bottom. The next one is Gator Juice from Mr. Nola's. And we're just going to use this as more like a filler around this darker green. Whenever I think of soccer fields and football fields and stuff, it's not just one color. And typically it's a brighter color. But I wasn't really thinking that brighter color with this. So I want to apologize for that. So we're just going to use this. This is a fine glitter. And we're going to use this to fill in all the areas in which that first glitter didn't stick that well. Once we get that on, the next process is we're going to go in with our white up on the top 2/3, and it's Craft Daddy White Hot. And we're going to use this for where the white ends at the green, and and where the bottle itself starts. So we're not going to put this on the neck of the bottle because we're going to go in with a white to blue glitter up there. So this had really good coverage with it. Once again, this is Craft Daddy, so it came from Crafty Thriving. And it went on really well and covered really good. Once we get that all the way around this top portion, we're going to go in with Presley from Little Lee and Rose. And you can see here it changes in the sun. So it's this beautiful color right here. And then in the sun, it turns to a light blue. And we're going to put this on the neck of the water bottle. And with this being tack it, you can, once you get this laid on all the way around, I went in and actually pressed some of these bigger flakes down and made sure whenever we go to put our epoxy on, it doesn't have a lot of rough edges. So once we get all this around the neck of the bottle, we're going to let this dry and make sure there's no bubbles. And we're going to go in with our clear spray paint and spray this to seal all that glitter in. And we're going to put our first coat of epoxy on. And I used the Amazing Quick Coat. And I mixed up about 70 milliliters of that for this first coat. And you can see in my room it's almost 80 degrees. And the Amazing Quick Coat is tack free in about 4 to 5 hours at 75-degree weather. Now, I've used this before, but if you're unfamiliar with it, like I said, it's tack free in 4 to 5 hours in 75-degree temperature. It's got about a 20 to 25 minute work time, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. I love this. This is one of my this is what I started out with, so it's my favorite epoxy. However, I do have others. I'm just waiting until I run out of this. So we're going to let this water bottle turn, and we're going to torch it. I generally torch mine about 2, maybe 3 revolutions around. It just depends on the temperature and what it looks like outside, I guess. If it's more humid, I torch it, let it spin, and about every 20 to 30 minutes I go in and torch it again until it gets to be really tacky. Now, once we've put this on and it's cured, because my arm does not fit this size water bottle, nor did any of my footballs or anything, we're going to go in and we're going to sand this one good time, and we're going to wipe it down with 91% rubbing alcohol. And the main reason why we're doing that is if you look close to the bottom, you can see that ring around the bottom. That's because I had a bubble butt. So I was taking that epoxy down some. We're going to go in and we're going to clean the rim from any of that paint that got on earlier. And make sure we get all that paint off around the rim of the tumbler. And we're going to measure out what size around this water bottle is for our next step. So as you saw, this is going to be more like a soccer mom type water bottle. So that's what we're doing here, is we are measuring the circumference of this water bottle up and down. I know that I had measured this out to be about 4 inches wide. So that's where we're going to go with it, is the circumference plus the height. And I'm just making sure the bottom matches up with the top. And thank goodness it does. So because this is such a long sheet that we're having to cut, it's more than 12 inches. We're going to take 2 of our regular mats and tape them together to make one longer mat. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's very seldom that I actually cut anything that's larger than 12 inches. And that's just me. There's very few things that I ever work on that's any larger than that. So I haven't purchased one of the longer mats. And all we're using here to hold these together is a piece of blue painter's tape. And we want to make sure we do the front and the back to help secure it. Once we get that secure, we're going to lay down our vinyl. And this is just a black textured vinyl. And we're going to lay that, we're going to make sure that we get that matched up on the sides and across the top for the cutting purposes. Once we get it on and secured across the top, we're going to take our brayer and we're going to work these crimps out of it. So that we don't have those bubbles in the vinyl. You can see here I'm just using that brayer and going across that vinyl and secure it to the mat. And we're going to do that all the way down this this cutting mat until we get it fully secured. Sorry about this break that's coming up, but I don't want to restart the whole video just to fix this issue. So now that we've got that on our cutting mat, we are going to go ahead and cut our vinyl. And the cut that I'm actually using for this is more of the honeycomb than it is the soccer ball. I was not able to find a good SVG for a soccer ball. Most of the ones I saw was the honeycomb, so that's why we went with the honeycomb. And here I just wanted you to see that with us putting these two cutting mats together, I wanted you to see that it did work out really well on cutting this larger piece of vinyl. So you can see there is no issues going past that 12 inches using the mats that we taped together to get about 24 inches. Now, the way that I matched them up is I put the second mat right up to the first mat's 12-inch mark. Here I'm checking to make sure that the vinyl cut through so it'll be easy removal. And we're going to unload it. I also cut out the names that was going on this tumbler. And I just used, this is a holographic thread for the top layer and just a cream color removable vinyl for the bottom layer. I really like working with the removable vinyl, and you will see later why we went that route. So I'm just making sure I get that name on this transfer tape really well, and I flip it over and remove the backing from the design. That way, hopefully, I'll have less issues with the name coming off. So I'm just slowly removing that backing off of the names in hopes that I don't like remove the dots from the eyes. And then we're gonna, once we get that taken off, we're going to get our parchment paper and lay that over the bottom layer, this cream color layer. And I actually wanted to do more of an offset, so this is not going to be lined up perfectly center on our offset, so it looks like it's going to be kind of like a drop shadow. And we're just going to, with using this parchment paper, it allows you to be able to see and line up your designs better than just hoping you get it down perfect. So once we get our name and our designs cut out, we're going to start putting it on our tumbler. Here you can see this is the the mom decal that we cut out, and it's the same as the name. So this is kind of like a rose gold metallic holographic thread foil vinyl. We're just going to put this around the very top, the neck of the bottle. This is where we did that white to blue. And I didn't like how this was going to lay straight across with there being somewhat of a bevel and a curve to this neck. So I separate the O, M from the M and kind of place it with a little bit of curvature to it. Now the socket part was a little more labor intense because we have that lining around the letters. So I wanted to make sure I got them on good. And the soccer ball. So this is what it looks like so far. Next, we're going to go in and we are going to start removing the vinyl parts that we don't need for this soccer ball. It took me a minute to figure out which way we needed to go with this. So I counted out the first sticker. And then you can see it's one clear all the way around and a black one in the center. So that's the way that we are removing these cuts. And we're going to do this all the way down and around this part of vinyl. And once we have that all done, we're going to cut our transfer tape to the same size of the vinyl that we're working with. Maybe just a tad bit larger. And here I'm marking where I want the cuts to be. I like the vinyl being just a little bit larger than what I'm working with. So once we get that all cut out and our vinyl is attached to our transfer tape, which is what I'm doing here. I'm lining up just an extra edge because we're going to do kind of like the hinge method with this to work it around the cup. And we're just going to start this, and then we are going to take whatever we have handy, which at the time was not my scraper, in which I usually use. So this is a stick that comes with some of my instant transfers. I'm just using that to remove the backing of the transfer tape and lay it down onto our vinyl. And then I will also use the same tool to attach the vinyl to our transfer tape. And you want to make sure you rub it really good on the front and the back. And here we are removing the backing from our design and exposing all the sticky. And you can see here that I'm having some issues with the centers, and they are not wanting to pull up, or they're wanting to pull up instead of stay on that transfer tape in which we're using. So I've had a lot of issues with a lot of the transfer tapes, and I went and got something else that I want to try, which is like a clear shelf lining tape, and I'm going to try that and see if it works any better at all. So once we have that backing off of our design, we are going to lay it down on our tumbler. And you see I have the lid on so that I can see what is going to be the front and what is going to be the back. Because it wasn't too long ago that I was working on a cup and I realized that the main focus of the design was not on the front or the back, it was kind of on the side. So now that we have it all cut out and we have it attached at that very beginning, like 1/4 of an inch, we're going to wrap the design around, make sure it all lines up the way that we want it. And then we are going to start applying this soccer ball design around this white part of the tumbler. And once we have that on all the way around, we are going to put our name down. And I did the name on the side so that whenever the person is drinking out of it, they will be able to see her name. Now the next step that I did with this was really labor intensive, if you will, because we're going to cut the part of the soccer ball design from around the letters and make it look like the name was inlaid into the soccer ball. And this is one reason why I like using the removable vinyl. So you can see here you've got the bubbles and the ridges from all the vinyl up underneath the names. So what we're doing on this step is going to remove all of that. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm going in and I'm cutting the black away from the letters. And then we're going to very gently pick up the letters and remove everything that's underneath those letters so that it lays smooth. You see here I'm trying to pick up that letter so that I can get that black vinyl out from underneath it. Now that we've moved a little further down the line, I hope this is a little bit better picture of what we're doing. So I'm cutting on either side of that C. I'm cutting the black And then we'll pick up that C and we'll start to remove the parts that in which we cut. And this was, like I said, this was to me, the most intensive part of this whole design. And this is actually the first time I've done anything like this. Usually I'll do the design and then I'll do a layer of epoxy and then I'll go over that layer of epoxy with our name or whatever we're putting over the design. But this time I wanted it to look like it was made into the design itself. You can see me picking at that little area right there and we're removing it. And we are going to pick up these little bitty pieces that are up underneath the C. And I left this part in so you could have more of an idea of what I was talking about. Me, I like to hear and see in order to learn something. So I'm looking at where I need to cut so that I can remove the next part in which needs to be removed. And there's actually a little bit of the vinyl that was stuck to the back of my letter. So we are going in and very gently removing that part of the vinyl so that whenever we lay it back down, it will not have that texture and that bubble of the cut vinyl up underneath it. So it'll lay flat and smooth. Here I found a little error, so we're going to go in and we're going to rework that. And it so happened that this actually worked out to being where the two ends of the vinyl came together. So doing this method also allowed us to remove some of that extra bulkiness of the two vinyls meeting. And we're going to do this method around the rest of the letters, which is the I and the A. And I'm sorry for the length of this portion, but I just really wanted y'all to see how I did this. So now that we have that cut around the eye, we're going to pick that eye up and we're going to remove that excess vinyl up underneath it and we will lay it back down. Make sure everything is still looking good. Now you can see I lay this down to make sure that where I'm cutting, it is a good spot to be cutting. And to make sure I got everywhere that I wanted cut. And like here, for instance, I see that there's areas extra like under that C that needs to be cut and removed. So that's what I was doing there. And I go back and I pick up the I and remove that part of the vinyl, and then I'll go and remove the lower part of the C so that I can remove the vinyl up underneath it. And sometimes, no matter how you finagle what you're working and trying to show, your hands get in the way. So I apologize for that. Sometimes once you're pulling up like this to remove or reposition something, I found sometimes I have difficulty, especially whenever it's in the middle of a word and you're trying to pick something up and reposition it to make it look right. And sometimes I have difficulty with that. And you see, this is really, some of this is really fine lines that you're trying to remove, and you're trying to hold up the letters. I'm sure if you knew exactly how you were laying this vinyl, you could have probably done a offset slice onto this vinyl, but then my luck would be that it wouldn't line up perfectly once you go to put it onto the tumbler. So that's the reason why I did not do an offset slice onto the vinyl as it was cutting. Because I know my luck, and my luck it wouldn't work out right. Or the ends wouldn't match up. There would be some reason why it would not work. So that's why I'm showing y'all the hard way right here. If you have any luck like me and it wouldn't work right. If it was in the middle of the design, it would probably work better. But with this being at the ends, I didn't want to trust it. So now that we have this all together and it is on our water bottle, the next step is we're going to go in with this polyacrylic. Pick this up from Walmart. And the reason why I'm using this, it'll help seal the vinyl so that it does not reject the epoxy. I found that sometimes the metallic foil vinyls will reject the epoxy. So to eliminate that, that's why we're going in with this. And I'm using my fingers because it's not like regular paint or anything like that. It's more like a water-based sealer. And we're just going to use our fingers and really get around these letters and the lines and everything on this tumbler and all the vinyl work. And this really doesn't take that long to dry and seal. as you saw earlier in doing my epoxy, it was about 80 degrees in that one room, so it was about the same temperature in the room that I'm working in during this process. So it didn't take long at all to dry. So we're just going to put a good coat of this all the way around our tumbler. Like I said, you want to pay close attention to all that vinyl. You could probably use a spray paint over this. I have not tried that in the past because I've got this container of polyacrylic. So that's generally my go-to when working with something like this. And I said this is a water base. I'm not real sure if it is or not, so don't quote me on that. But I've always used my fingers using polyacrylic on this or other projects that I've done. So now that that polyacrylic is dried and cured, we're going to go in with the first of 2 layers. And on both of these layers, I mixed up 70 milliliters of epoxy and just applied it as we usually do. Make sure you get that epoxy all the way around your tumbler. Make sure it is good. Make sure you got the whole thing covered. Once you get your epoxy on, just like every other step before, you are going to torch it. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that I put the blue painter's tape around the top, around the threads, so that we did not get any of that epoxy on the threads. So now that we've got our epoxy on, we're going to torch it, pop any of those micro bubbles that is in the cup or in the epoxy, and let that cure. Once it's cured about 4 to 5 hours, we're going to go in with our final coat of epoxy, and we're going to repeat the process, about 70 milliliters, put it on, torch it, and then we will stop the spin and reverse it to where it spins the opposite direction, and then we will be done. You can see how this kind of bumps a little. That's because the footballs on the inside does not fit that great. Hopefully you'll have better luck than what I did with the footballs or whatever you're using. So this is our final look. Now, if y'all like this, please consider giving me a thumbs up, liking and subscribing. And until next time, keep crafting. Y'all have a good day. Bye.